What's going on, y'all? So I want to talk to y'all about something that I see in the black community that don't sit well with me. So if any of y'all have never noticed, industries like hotels, motels, corner stores, and tire shops are owned mostly and ran mostly by Arabs. But the thing that I notice every time I go into each of these establishments, they always have older black men in these subservient roles running around like chickens with their head cut off, serving their business and serving them. So I wondered to myself, why is it that every time I step into one of these businesses, I see an old black man or old black woman bending over backwards, running around like a chicken with their head cut off, serving these people's businesses? If you do your research, you'll see that Arabs were actually the first people involved in the African slave trade back in the 15th century. But in school, all they wanted to tell you about is the white people that enslaved us, when in actuality, almost every other culture on this earth has benefited off our enslavement. And every time I would see this, it would never sit well in my spirit. I would tell myself, damn, this giving me slave vibes right here. But in actuality, that's what it is. It's way deeper than surface level.
I'm a Muslim and I was discriminated against inside of a mosque. By who? By some Arab persons. I talked about it online. A lot of people were standing with me.
I think folks don't realize just how much more racist the Middle East is, even compared to the West. So, for example, if Akash goes, the only difference between him and the migrant is his passport. And that's the only thing that gets him treated like a human being.
Why?
Because your people...
smarter than those...
Jesus, bro.
Hey, y'all want to be racist to me? I can throw it right back. I don't have a single in this seat, but you know what it is.
Behave, Browns. Everybody calm down, okay? Now, you're saying the migrants are from India, so they're going to treat him like a migrant.
Yeah. They're from India, Pakistan, East Africa, like Southern Asia. And so they'll use all these people to come down and work, but like they treat them like garbage. You're relegated to certain neighborhoods. You can't get out. If you try to move anywhere else, they'll bar you from it. Damn. But like, though, if they find out his passport's from any of those countries, oh, he getting fucked up.
Really?
Yeah.
Now, and you're saying that this type of treatment exists all throughout the Middle East?
Oh yeah.
So
for example,
second class is?
So for example, even if you go to Lebanon, all right, I'm just taking an example. Lebanon, the Lebanese people don't get.
Listen, it's no secret that Arabs do not ride out for the black parts of the Ummah as much as they should be. Not saying that there aren't many of you that do. I'm saying that more of you need to ride out for us, because we ride so hard for you guys that people literally look at us like we're stupid. People literally say, those are the same people who call you Abid. Right now, Libya enslaves so many of my people, and I don't hear Arabs talking about it. In the Ummah, us black people face so much racism from the same people that are our brothers and sisters, right? It really, really disappoints me, and I want to see Arabs doing better.
Well, every day is a good day to learn. Now, with this drama taking place involving the Somali community in America versus Donald Trump, and by extension, the entire of Americans, something deeper is getting exposed. So, for many years, Somalis have always distanced themselves from blackness. They have openly come out to say that they're not black. And they have also distanced themselves from Africanness. They say they are not African, they are Somali, and often identifying actually as Arab. They'd love to be Arab, you know. But now that the Somalis are under political pressure and being targeted by Donald Trump, the silence from the Arab world is loud. But you ask yourself, why? Are they not watching? Of course they are watching. Of course they know this is happening. And that silence exposes a deeper issue that sometimes rarely gets talked about. Racism in the Arab world, especially towards black people, is very, very well alive and thriving. And that's what I want us to unpack in this particular video. Now, I'm going to share some videos here. Let's watch these videos, and I'll be back with a really good commentary. So stay tuned.
If you're black, can you stay for a second? So I want to share an experience with you, help you understand how black people get treated in another country that, you know, blacks deemed so terrible. Like openly racist. Like America here, people are racist, but not openly. So I lived in the Middle East in Jordan, Amman. Mind you, I'm Muslim. I speak Arabic. I am just a brown girl. I'm from Sudan. Where I'm from, people speak Arabic. When I lived in the Middle East, I will tell you guys, I experienced everything involving racism. It was from Middle Easterns. Even if you were from the Middle East yourself, if you were darker complexion, you're automatically deemed as just peasant. You are looked down on. I am telling you this. And these people will never take accountability. Especially now that they live in the US. All corner stores and all these things, majority of them are, you know, Arab men. Black people love them. They praise them for, you know, being the person in the corner. But y'all don't understand, if you are in their country, the way you will be treated, you are going to hate it.
When you live in Saudi Arabia as a black person, you really quickly realize that racism is deeply rooted. And there is a word, abda or abd, whatever, it's the same thing, but which means slave, okay? Remember that, slave. Are you ready? And that's how some of people openly refer to black people. But what hurts the most is when that word comes from your own friend, guys. And yes, I almost forgot, even my friends call me Abda. Sometimes as if it's normal, and other times during arguments, but that doesn't justify anything. Okay, for example, imagine you walk on the street and someone might give you like hateful look or use terms sauda just to comment on your color skin. But back then, I didn't really see it as a racism. At first, because I was just young and just a child, you know, I didn't really take that serious, and I just start to understand that after moving in France, I began to understand what really happened. Anyway, that's it.
Thank you, my sister, for speaking up. Even though it breaks my heart, but what I'm about to say right now would break my heart more. Arab people are the most racist people I come across in my life. I was called Abd or Abid multiple times, which translates to a servant or a slave. Racism in 2025 in this century should not be overlooked. I'm a Muslim and I was discriminated against inside of a mosque. By who? By some Arab persons. I talked about it online. A lot of people were standing with me, but I got attacked by two different set of people. The first set were my fellow black Africans who were non-Muslims, who were asking, what am I doing in another person's religion? And two, the Arab people who were busy defending their own fellow Arabs. I am not saying every Arab person is racist. What I'm saying is all my encounter with racism is through an Arab person. And let me tell you one of my last experience apart from the mosque scenario. I was in the queue inside of a supermarket checking out my item. So the first person on the queue was a man, and then followed by this old Arab woman, and I was the third person. I can't remember the first person, but he forgot his banana. So the supermarket staff thought the banana belongs to the old Arab woman. So she collected the banana from the supermarket staff and put it on my toilet paper. Keep in mind, I was only buying toilet papers in the supermarket. She looked at the staff and looked back and said, I needed the banana the most. I was laughing. I thought she was joking. I was saying, I don't need the bananas. Please, I don't need them. She insisted that I needed the banana the most. She put it on my item. I actually thought she was paying for the bananas like she was offering. And I did not even pick offense in what she did. I walked out laughing. I refused to take the bananas. So I was telling this my friend of this weird experience, right? And he immediately interpreted it like they call Africans monkeys and monkeys like bananas. So that might be the reason why she thought I needed the banana the most. The main point of my video is to talk about racism and possibly end it. I've met a lot of nice Arab people, but I'm sorry, most of my encounters were through Arabs, and especially the older ones. Let's spread the love, not the hate.
One of the worst insults I've ever heard was in Saudi Arabia when they would run around calling me a lesbian because no man would ever want to date or talk to someone like me. And when I would complain, they would say, you should be lucky that we're even seeing you as a lesbian because we're calling you a girl when you're not really a girl.
I'm so sick of racist Arab men. Guys, all I was trying to get was 4 pieces of baklava, and instead I was racially assaulted, racially attacked, verbally abused, chased after and thrown items at. And what did the police say? They said, sorry, you don't have 2 witnesses. Sorry, we don't believe you. His CCTV camera is not working, so they let him go. Because yet again, they don't want to do anything about racist events. I'm so sorry. And also, has an Arab man never seen a black Arab? I'm so sick of it.
In the Somali community, that's why a lot of people, I remember I saw an article of a Somali lady became blind because she was bleaching herself. If you go to Somalia now, they'll say to me, why you're dark, you're dirty. Do you know what I mean? You need to like. I've had family members when I went to visit them, and they'll be like, oh my god, you know, if you're such a pretty girl, if you just scrubbed yourself and just cut the dirt out of you'll be so much better. And even like I remember when I got married, and I have so many examples. Even like I remember one of the things I tell you that stuck with me for years is that when I first got married, and you know Nabil's dad's very light, but that was never my mission. Do you know what I mean? Do you know what my auntie said to me when I was getting married and she saw him? She was like, oh my god, yes, you brought a light-skinned man. Oh, you did well. Your kids.
When I'm speaking on the racial discrimination and insidious anti-blackness in Lebanon, that how black Africans are being treated like slaves and shit in Lebanon, I'm speaking to also other Middle Eastern countries and how they treat black Africans that go there to help them and serve their economy. Because we're not just there to leech, we're there to work. We are working as laborers, we're working in your homes as maids, some of us are working in your banks, some of us are working. And regardless of that, because of your superiority complex, you believe you're better than us. But I want to say something. It's not just Lebanon. It is in the Middle East. It's not just Lebanon. It's across the Middle East. This is a research that was done by the Arab Barometer, Racial Discrimination and Anti-Blackness in the Middle East and North Africa. So there's a reason why I am making this video, because it is insidious. It is so much ingrained into your system. But the funny thing is this. A lot of Middle Eastern countries and North African countries are so racist to black Africans, to blacks, especially black Africans. But the funny thing is these countries, especially in the Middle East, you guys come to Africa regardless. You come to black Africa regardless. You come to sub-Saharan African countries regardless to do business. You come there to live. But the funny thing is we, the black Africans, always treat you so well. Isn't it funny? We treat you so well in our countries and you treat us like shit in your countries. Isn't that funny? But there's a reason why I am making this video. I want to show the black African, home and abroad, that this is the data. This is what people think of you, especially from the Middle East and North Africa. There is an insidious anti-blackness against the black African. You are a nuisance to them. They might use you, you might contribute to their economy, you might work, but you are still a slave in their eyes. But then I have another question. There's a large Lebanese community in West Africa. In Nigeria alone, I believe there's over 500,000 Lebanese in Nigeria. There's millions of Lebanese in West Africa. So my question to us black Africans from these countries that are in Africa, why are we treating the Lebanese nicely in Nigeria? Why are we treating the Middle Eastern man and woman so nicely in Nigeria, so nicely in West Africa, when they treat us like shit in their countries? Why? I want you to answer that question. And this is not just Middle East. Anti-blackness and discrimination against the black African is a global thing. And I'm going to be making videos on every single continent on this world so that you, a black African man, a black African woman, a black African, can see for yourself and see that we are not liked anywhere. We're just barely tolerated. So the reason I'm making all these videos is so that the black African will see the importance of why we need to unite. Why we have to work together. Because I think sometimes when people talk about African unity, we have to unite, people think it's just a fancy word. We have no choice because we have no friends. To the Arab man, we are still nothing but a slave. To the white man, we are beneath his feet. To the Asian man, we are subhuman. I'm speaking in general and the perception of who we are. It does not mean you cannot have your friends. It just means you have to understand it in the grand scheme of things. This is how the world perceives us. We are perceived as lesser value, and we're going to be treated as such. In Asia, in Europe, in Africa, in Latin America, even in Antarctica, I'm sure. In Australia as well. So this video is to inspire the black African, home and abroad, on why we have to work together and collaborate to build ourselves. Build yourself where you are, but also don't lose sight of spreading awareness and building fortitude in economy. Stop fighting within yourselves. We have enough enemies as it is.
If you are a Muslim who responds to conversations about anti-Black racism in the Muslim community with comments like this about, well, racism is haram. It is outlawed in the Quran. The Prophet didn't allow it. So therefore, racism does not exist in our communities. You are outing yourself as one of either two things. One, you either have incredibly low critical thinking skills and are not able to have this kind of conversation until you go and work on critical thinking skills in general. Or two, you are indirectly outing yourself as someone who has very deep-seated anti-black racism within you. Let's take this kind of reasoning and apply it to other things that are also haram or forbidden for any non-Muslims watching. Haram just means forbidden. Let's apply this to other things that are haram in Islam. Islam does not allow us to lie. Does that mean that no Muslims lie? Of course not. Islam does not allow us to steal from other people. Does that mean that there are no Muslims who steal? Of course not. Murder is not allowed in Islam. Does that mean that there are no Muslims who commit murder? Of course not. Drinking alcohol is not acceptable in Islam, but does that mean that there are Muslims who drink alcohol? Of course there are! And on and on. There's literally a million examples we can pull from. And all of this goes back to the point being is that just because Islam, the religion, the Prophet, peace be upon him, the Quran explicitly say to do not do this, this is not allowed, that means literally nothing for what people's actual behaviors are. If you are a Muslim, when you come into contact with conversations around anti-black racism within the Muslim community to other Muslims, this isn't even how non-black Muslims treat black people in general, but your siblings in faith. If in response to conversations like that, your response is something like this, a deflection, you either do not have the critical thinking skills necessary for this conversation, or you are admitting to having ingrained anti-black racism within your heart. And that anti-black racism is absolutely haram, completely.
All right. Now, let's be honest about, what this moment is exposing. First, this isn't an attack even about the Somali people, to be honest. This is about confronting an identity contradiction that has been maybe ignored for far too long, I can say. For many years, many Black Americans and Africans have pointed out, or even the Somali community themselves have come out to reject Blackness openly and reject Africanness openly. And they insist on being Arab, which I think if you want to choose identity, that's okay. That's okay. Just know it has consequences. So sometimes they identify themselves as Arab far more than being African. And mark you, Somalia is in the continent of Africa. It's not even an island close to Africa. It is part of continental Africa. And when Black people or Africans call this out, they've been shot by the Somali community saying, we choose to be Arab. But now I want to say, the choice is yours, but there's consequences. Because now that they are under political pressure in America, the reality is becoming clear. And you cannot ask for truth and unity with Africans or with Black Americans in the name of we are all Black for convenience purposes. Blackness and Africanness should be a conviction, not a convenience. Now, the Arab world is silence, and the silence is not accidental. It's not by accident, actually. When Somalis are targeted in the US, you ask yourself, where is the Arab solidarity? Because apparently they identify as Arab. Where the Arab governments, so many countries in the Middle East, where the Arab influencers, I believe there are some of them, many of them, where is the outrage? The truth is uncomfortable, but it needs to be said. Black people are not seen as equals, or people from continent Africa are not seen as equals in the Arab world, regardless of whether you practice their religion. Of course, the majority of the Arab world is practice Islam. Even if you're from Africa and practicing Islam, even if you learn their culture, their language, even if you learn their history and practice it, they still don't recognize Black people as Arabs. And they don't even differentiate between black people from, say, Africa, the Caribbeans, or even black Americans. They just look at the skin color and they're like, yeah. So let's talk about the anti-blackness in the Arab world, which is deeply rooted. So, and this is not new. It's not controversial outside of polite conversation. Let's be honest. This is something that's just there. Dark skin is openly stigmatized in the Arab world. Skin bleaching is even actually normalized amongst them, and slave language towards black people very well exist. There are very many Africans working in the Middle East, and they all complain about the same thing. And that's the same treatment any other black person gets in the Arab world. Black Africans are treated as disposable labor in many African countries, especially if you're not working in a professional position, skilled labor. If especially there are many Africans working in the unskilled sector in the Middle East, unskilled labor, they are having it really rough, really tough. So even dark-skinned Arabs themselves face internalized racism and colorism. So when people say, for example, Islam as a religion forbids racism, therefore racism does not exist in Arab societies or in societies that practice Islam, it's either they're very, 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 very ignorant of the obvious facts, or deliberately being dishonest, or actually those are low-key, heavily racist people who say that, because they're practicing Islam, they purport, but they're still very openly racist towards black people and people of African origin. A religion can actually preach equality, but societies in it still practice something totally different, the exact opposite. Now, let's also talk about the North African contradiction. And this is another uncomfortable truth. Many North Africans and North African countries, that's Morocco, Algeria, Tunisia, Libya, Egypt, and sometimes a bit of northern Sudan. These nations have been Arabized through invasion and conquest. If you don't know, there was the Arab invasion of Africa. Arabs, even way long before the Europeans invaded Africa, Arabs had already invaded Africa. In fact, the oldest slave trade is not from Europe, not from the Europeans, but this Arab slave trade, especially that was prevalent in the east coast of Africa. And so these so-called Northern African countries and people from those countries openly discriminate against sub-Saharan Africans, the originals, because those that you see in those so-called Arab countries or Northern Africa, they're not actually the natives. The natives are much more different people, because before the Arabs invaded North Africa, there were people already existed in Egypt, in Algeria, in Morocco, and there are still some traces of indigenous people, but of course they've been really assimilated and Arabized, for that matter. And this is historically ironic, yeah? You're on the continent of Africa, your presence came through conquest and forceful invasion, yet you look down on Africans darker than you that you found right in the continent. And that's not pride. I don't think that's pride. That is internalized supremacy inherited from, of course, the empire, And let's say Africans and also black people, even those outside of Africa, have far more tolerated the Somalis than Arabs ever did. And here's a part that maybe they may not want to admit, but Somalis have been embraced in African countries. There are so many Somalis in different other countries, and this drama happening with them in the United States of America has actually exposed with people from other different countries. I've had the same cases in Kenya, in Zambia, in South Africa, and in as far west as Ghana, saying that the same thing that they are doing in Minnesota is the same things they are doing in those different African countries. So that tells you they have been welcomed across the continent, and they have also been given refuge, of course, in the Western world. They're there in Sweden, they're there in Norway, and they are, of course, now they're there in United States of America. And so it tells you they have been welcomed a lot, and they've been given a chance, they've been given opportunity. If you understand, they have a Congress person, they have other politicians in the US, then those are people that have been accepted. Many Black Americans, despite their own historical trauma, for example, have defended Somalis, I can say, because they have always defended for the rights of POCs, other different minorities, and all that immigrants have in America is because of the struggles of Black Americans. So it suffices to say that the Somali community have also benefited from the struggles of Black Americans. Yet the Somalis still reject Black identity until it is convenient to remember who stands with them. For me, that's hypocrisy and cannot be accepted. You do not only call on Black unity, on African unity as a form of convenience when you're under attack, when it is your moment of crisis. Now, this moment is a reminder and not an attack, actually. This situation is sad, but necessary. It's a necessary reminder. You cannot reject Blackness and expect Black solidarity when you're under pressure, any kind of pressure whatsoever. And you cannot deny Africanness, then benefit from African tolerance. So now the Africans are saying, we're not going to take Somalis getting deported. They can go back to Somalia. Why? Because they don't want to accept you because you have denied them openly by saying you're not African. And of course, Blacks are saying deport them because they are showing disrespect even to the hosts. You can't claim an Arab identity when Arabs themselves don't fully accept you. This isn't about humiliation. It's just about clarity, basically. If anything good can come from this moment, it's honesty, especially, honesty about identity, honesty about racism in the Arab world. They need to tell you and to tell the world how they are treated in Yemen and in Saudi Arabia, just, across the Red Sea. And honesty about who actually shows up when things get hard. They need to sit down and, talk about that themselves, because history has already shown us this. Black people may argue with each other, and when I say Black people now, entirely, but when it comes, when it counts, they can show up. But then I insist, unity must not be used as convenience. Yeah. Do share with me what your thoughts are on this particular topic in the comment section below if you have something to share. And give this video a thumbs up, share it as well. And if you like what we do, then subscribe to the channel and become part of us. And I'll see you in the next video.